Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will presenting my paper with the title Indonesia and Malaysia Relations on the Antikong Border of West Kalimantan. My name is Gibran Irfani Abdullah from International Program of International Relations, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta. Okay, for the background, the differences between Indonesia and Malaysia on the Antikong border in the Sanggau region, West Kalimantan, are striking, starting from transportation infrastructure, education, and health infrastructure, economic infrastructure such as market, to the quality of human resources. Tirto Sudarmo 2005, Ardana 2006, Abdullah 2013. This directly shows the difference in the level of population welfare, which places Indonesians at the border in an unequal status, with differences that form an underdeveloped image of the region, citizens, and government. Several studies have also shown that an asymmetrical relationship between two countries on the border is a universal phenomenon. The disparity in the quality of life of the population and the weak image of the country has become an excuse for the dependence of the Antikong people on neighboring countries and have ultimately worsened Indonesia's image in the eye of the Malaysian population. Our observation shows that the striking differences in infrastructure have an attraction for Antikong residents to meet their socio-economic needs in Malaysian territory. Apart from affecting the flow of goods from the Malaysia to Indonesia, at the same time, the level of trust of Indonesia in Malaysia has increased to the first-hand experience of the different quality of life between Indonesia and neighboring countries. The residents of the two countries at the border evaluate that there are differences in the seriousness of fighting for the fate of border residents between the two countries. In line with that, the issue of inequality of relation is very important in this border case. As Ahmad and Ekber 2015 become an equality, analysis can expand the scale of understanding beyond the boundaries of the community that so far Antikong on the border is only seen as an isolated border community. The network of relation between the two countries regarding how images are exchanged through discourse, which affect the practice of asymmetrical relations between the two societies, has not been adequately explained. The research focus of this study examines how a portrait of the limitation in border region. The study also examines how good flows circulate in the Antikong border. In this way, we will not only know the anatomy of the problem faced in the border area, but also how those at the border have been presented as a result of the imbalance between Indonesia and Malaysia. In other words, how far Dayaks gawai as diplomacy opportunities. For literature review, the differences between countries on the border have been under the spotlight of experts, both in Indonesia and various places in the world. The case of Indonesia has been investigated as part of demographic problems where the composition of the population influences the dynamics of border areas. As Tirto Sudarmo, 2002 and 2005. Many researchers pay great attention to political issues, where the dynamic of border politics have shaped area as security object that are subject to various surveillance measures. Astana Saldi 2008, Septarina 2014. The socio-economic dynamic have been carefully received not only regarding the economic life of the population at the border, but also the possibilities for improving the economic of the community were discussed. As Siburian 2002, Andana 2006, Prasojo 2013. The study of various aspects shows an interesting reality, namely an imbalance between the two countries, especially Indonesia and Malaysia. Various places in Asia have also experienced the problem of inequality between countries, as has caused the attention of researchers. Chachori, for example, shows that the imbalance between Bangladesh and India is unavoidable even though they have a similar historical and cultural background. Inequality does not only occur economically, but also in the character of the political regime and leadership in the two countries. As Chachari 2013. It is different with the case of the border between India and Pakistan, where the issue of religion is important beside the economy, where Pakistan has a Muslim majority population and India is a Hindu majority, where political attitudes between the two countries have blocked the way for conflict resolution between these two regions. As Ahmad and Ekber 2015. The case in Southeast Asia can be found on the border of Laos and Cambodia, which is an interesting example how identity is taken and maintained in the unfavorable socio-economic and political situation in relations between the two countries, as Bright 2010. As also happened on the border of Myanmar and Thailand, whose economic life is largely determined by the political temperature in the two countries, as Bejono said 2017. A symmetrical relationship have become a global phenomenon that can be found in various places, as C. Hilmer 2005, Womack 2016, Bejo Meset 2017. However, not much attention has been paid to the study of how these differences have far-reaching effect on everyday life, in which a society must live in defeat and feelings of being left behind. In such a situation, they must fight for not only socio-economic life, but also their national identity and loyalty to the nation state. In line with that, this paper tries to look more closely at how border residents experience and perceive the meaning of life in unfavorable material condition and image. For the theoretical framework, border studies or borderline studies is an interdisciplinary field of research that focus on border and its rich array of meanings and interpretation. Transboundary zoning is an initiative driven by local or regional authorities, which aims to address transboundary local issues such as transport and environmental degradation. Many transboundary territories are also active in promoting intercultural communication and dialogue as well as transboundary economic development strategies. It provides financial support for transboundary areas through the interregional online program on cross-border cooperation, providing a legal framework for cross-border cooperation although it is rarely used in practice. On the other hand, bilateral diplomacy includes way of regulating relations between pair of countries. It differs from multilateral diplomacy, including regional variants in the partner involved, but not in intrinsic technique. The 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations remains the foundation of bilateral diplomacy. The last theory in this paper is cultural diplomacy, as one type of public diplomacy and soft power that includes the exchange of ideas, information, art, language, and other cultural aspects between a nation and its nation to foster mutual understanding. The aim of cultural diplomacy is the foreign nation in develop an understanding of the ideals of institution of the nation to build broad support for economic and political goals. In essence, cultural diplomacy reveals the soul of a nation, which in turn exerts influence. Although often overlooked, cultural diplomacy can and does play an important role in achieving national security efforts. For research methodology, a qualitative case study design was chosen to observe the details of Indonesia and Malaysia relation on the Antikong border of West Kalimantan. This paper is fully supported by Binus University as part of the outreach program in collaboration with the State Islamic Institute or IAIN Pontianak. The research was conducted with the IAIN Pontianak Border Research Team under the guidance of Dr. Zainuddin Hudi Prasojo and Arif Wibowo SHMH. This paper is based on observation in the border area and interviews with several key informants in Antikong from August to November 2017. The research process has started with literature studies in Jakarta, Yogyakarta, and Pontianak. Several informants have also been involved in research discussion in Pontianak, which were then followed by a visit to Antikong in the Sanggau area, which is directly adjacent to the Tebedu area in Sarawak for field research. Observations were made in these two areas to get a picture of the infrastructure in both places. Interviews were conducted with several figures and residents, including the Antikong Daya Adat Council, the Antikong Subdistrict, the Antikong Immigration Service, the Istiqomah Ibtidaiyah Madrasah Teachers, and the Antikong 1 Elementary School. The traders in Antikong Market, as well as residents around the border, were also the subject of this study. To recruit the participants, the researchers contacted Dayak Customary Council and roaming the Antikong border for 2 months. The differences between Indonesia and Malaysia on the Antikong border in the Sanggau region, West Kalimantan, are striking, starting from transportation infrastructure, education, and health infrastructure, economic infrastructure, such as market, to the equality of human resource, as Tirto Sudarmo 2005, Ardana 2006, Abdullah 2013. From this field research, the researchers found that the differences between Indonesia and Malaysia in the Antikong border create a big chance of causing conflict due to social jealousy, and the kinship of the Dayak tribe here acts like a union for both parties. For the findings, limitation of border infrastructure, transportation facilities and infrastructure in the Antikong area are still far from expectation. The road quality is still poor, although some points have been updated and widened. In certain sections, it can be seen that the road construction process is ongoing. The government only started requiring this road at the end of 2016. Previously, the road was not maintained, so it took a longer travel time. In Antikong Subdistrict, there are many shops, stalls, travel agents scattered along Jalan Lintas Malindo. On the street, there is also an open market with less crowded traders and buyers. Similar to the shops in Antikong, the market can find many goods from Malaysia which tend to be cheaper, such as Malaysian tulip branded rice price at 8,500 rupiah. There are also carrots, potatoes, cabbage, and Malaysian sugar, which have an average price difference of up to 5,000 rupiah per kilo. In this market, rupiah and ringgit money can be used and equated in payment and change. In 500 rupiah, 5,000 rupiah, is equivalent to 5 ringgit. This market provides various daily necessities such as rice, LPG gas, onions, fish, and vegetable. Traders complained about Indonesian goods which tend to be more expensive, so they could not compete with Malaysian goods. Meanwhile, the quality of Indonesian goods is considered not worth the price. Educational conditions are still poor in this area. Most of the population of Antikong Subdistrict, 70% only graduated from elementary school. In this subdistrict, no senior high school has yet been established, so they have to go to Sanggau to continue their studies. The existing schools have fairly simple buildings and a shortage of teachers. There are only 2 kindergartens with a total of six teachers. There are 4 elementary schools with 26 civil servant teachers and 46 honorary teachers. Only one madrasah ibtidaiyah with 9 teachers. There are 2 junior high school with 3 teachers and there are 2 SMK with 35 teachers. Health facilities are not much different from education. The border area is in a very vulnerable condition because it is a place for virus or disease to enter and exit. Health facilities to anticipate this in Antikong are still very minimal. There is only one puskesmas, which lacks the trust of the community due to limited facilities and a shortage of medical personnel. People also prefer to seek treatment in Malaysia. Antikong Subdistrict only has limited medical personnel. There are 2 general practitioners, 1 dentist, 4 midwives, and 10 nurses. The Antikong community still hopes for adequate health facilities and infrastructure, as well as competent and skilled health workers. However, this condition has not been fulfilled until now. In Antikong, there are various official agencies, such as a sub-district office, police office, Koramil office, customs and exercise service office, immigration office, Sanggau district prosecutors branch office, Antikong education, youth and sport office, branch office, Antikong health center, fish quarantine station, agricultural quarantine station, health quarantine office, Antikong border area management agency, food and drug control office, post and giro office, Raharja Putra insurance service, TNI Malaysia Joint Headquarter, Vocational Training Center, Religious Affairs Office, PDAM, Placement and Protection Service, Post for Indonesian Workers, Fishery Supervision Post, Smart House, Bank Mandarin CU Samarang, LPPRI Border, CU Murakopa, Bank Kalbar Support Office, CU Lantang Tipo, and BP3K Branch Office. Apart from these government agencies, there is also an NGO anak bangsa, which handles the problem of migrant workers and handles the field of education outside of school. This physical and institutional infrastructure exists to overcome all the limitations experienced by the Indonesian people at the border. Although it is still far from adequate, limited infrastructure is at the same time an important differentiator that places Indonesia as the object of discussion when compared to Malaysian ability to provide facilities for its people. One-way flow of goods by the district area of 507 square km. Part of it is used for agricultural area on 4,983 hectare and plantation 7,012 hectares. By looking at the land potential, this area should be able to develop rapidly and be able to produce agricultural commodities. But in fact, the farmers were not successful in utilizing the available land area. The main complaint is that the quality of Indonesian fertilizer is not as good as Malaysian fertilizer, which are considered more suitable for the soil in Antikong district. Malaysian fertilizer are not easily available to farmer. Fertilizer is of course not the only precondition for low soil productivity in Indonesian territory. Goods passing through this area must go through the National Border Crossing Post PLBN, which is the only official land port of Indonesia in the Kalimantan region, which function as a gateway for entry and exit of Sarawak, Sabah, and Brunei Darussalam. This PLBN is closely guarded 24 hours by officers, and on January 2, 1995, there was a stipulation that international trade could be carried out through the Antikong PLBN. Could be carried out through the Antikong PLBN, of course. On 21 December 2016, the PLBN, which now looks more manly, was inaugurated by President Jokowi after major repairs were held. PLBN Antikong operates from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and is always busy on weekends. When crossing to Malaysia, Antikong residents do not need a passport. They only need to show the cross-border pass when passing the Antikong PLBN. However, passers are required to show their passport at the Antikong PLBN if they want to pass through the Tebedu area Malaysia. Likewise, Tebedu residents don't need a passport as long as they don't pass through the Sanggau area. In 2016, on average, nearly 1,000 people depart from Indonesia to Malaysia every day for various reasons, such as shopping, medical treatment, doing business, having a vacation, and visiting relative or family. While every day an average of nearly 800 people from Malaysia come to Indonesia for vacation, doing business, visiting relatives or family, and there is also a small proportion who shop at the Antikong market. Regarding the problem of persons crossing illegally, it is now very difficult to do so even though there are also roads through the forest that are impossible to pass without the help of residents. After the Malaysia-Indonesia Social and Economic Cooperation Agreement, or we can say SOSEC Malindo, border residents who shop in Malaysia are not subject to excise duty, provides that the expenditure does not exceed 600 ringgit. Unfortunately, the 600 Malaysian ringgit figure is considered to be very burdensome for residents who want to carry their shopping across Indonesia, because the 600 ringgit figure has been established since 1970 and has never been adjusted. Usually, Indonesians bring sugar, coffee, onions, cooking oil, rice, and LPG gas from Malaysia, whose price can exceed the provisions. Meanwhile, the Malaysians brought ginger, cucumber, and ferns from Indonesia. Based on the records of the Antikong Custom and Excise Supervision and Service Office, the value of imports from Malaysia that enter Indonesia was still greater than the value of export from Indonesia to Malaysia. From June 2016 to July 2017, the highest export value from Indonesia to Malaysia was recorded in November 2016 with a value of around 7.5 billion rupiah. The highest imports from Malaysia to Indonesia occurred in August 2016 with a value of 30 billion rupiah. During that year, Indonesian export never exceeded the value of imports. In June 2017, the export value was at 9 billion rupiah, while the import value reached 17 billion rupiah. This imbalance in export and import values shows Indonesia's dependence on Malaysia products. Dayak Gawai as diplomacy opportunities. The Dayak Gawai is a Dayak celebration that has been carried out since the days of the Dayak Assessor. Gawai Dayak began to be held on a large scale on September 25, 1964. Now, Dawai Gaya in Indonesia is held from April to May every year. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Dayak Gawai is held nationally, and it has been determined by the Malaysian government that June 1 is a National Gawai Day holiday since 1865. The Dayak Gawai aims to strengthen brotherhood and also as a form of gratitude for the harvest. Dayak people from both countries invite and attend each other when the Gawai event is held both in Indonesia and in Malaysia. The Gawai Dayak begins with small parties, such as prayers for the blessing of the road. During the feast, the roads leading to the fields are cleared and everyone passing through the streets builds a prayer service. If in the past people pray using adat, now in the Antikong area they pray according to their respective religions. There is also a ceremony to welcome rice children. When the rice began to harvest, field prayers were held several times until they were evenly distributed throughout the village. In each ceremony, after the sticky rice is prepared, the traditional leader gathers the community members to discuss when they will eat the new rice and when the invitation will begin to distributed to families outside Sanggau Regency, to families in Malaysia. The peak of Gawai is when everyone has harvest rice and can eat new rice, which is a form of mass Thanksgiving. Dayak Gawai in Malaysia are not much different. The striking difference lies in the Gawai Dayak calendar, which has been set by the Malaysian government on 1 June each year. The Malaysian government also built the original Dayak Longhouse to be used as a venue for the Gawai. The parties involved in the Dayak Gawai were all Dayak people who were not unable to participate, including the TNI and Polri officer who oversaw the events. Besides inviting family, anyone can join the Dayak Gawai. Uh, Meals for Muslim participants are also specially prepared. Indeed, the Dayak Gawai is to strengthen the ties of brotherhood. Even local tourists and foreign tourists are never absent in the Dayak Gawai. Guests who come and attend Gawai will be given gifts when they return so that their relative who cannot come can also feel Gawai's blessing. For Gawai in its village, there was no contribution from the government. However, every 7 until 9 June, the government of the Sanggau Regency holds a Gawai summit from 15 sub-districts in Sanggau Residency. That is the basis Dayak Gawai event. There were even representatives from the embassies of friendly countries. In the Regency level Dayak Gawai, there are not only parties but also cultural exhibition and various competition with traditional insight such as dance, painting, carving, pencak silat, grated coconut, pounding rice, folk songs, domamang domia, like a kind of elder brother election, and the Besmis fashion shows, reciprocating rhymes, and so on. Indonesia is very rich in culture, likewise with Malaysia, which is allied with Indonesia. Dayak Gawai proves that Indonesia and Malaysia have a high sense of solidarity. Big problems will always arise, but it has been proven that from 1964 until now, the Dayak Gawai is still running according to its purpose, namely strengthening brotherhood through involvement, art appreciation, through awareness of the cultural similarities of the two nations. This Dayak Gawai is a way for cultural diplomacy that ensures harmony between the two countries which have the same cultural roots. So, unbalanced friendship in the Antikong border, we can say that transportation facilities and infrastructure in the Antikong area are still far from expectation. Sorry. Uh, Unbalanced friendship in the Antikong border. Various places in Asia have also experienced the problems of inequality between countries as has caught the attention of researchers. Chacheri, for example, show that the imbalance between Bangladesh and India is unavoidable, even though they have a similar historical and cultural background. Inequality does not only occur economically but also in the character of the political regime and leadership in the two countries. Chapter 2013, The same with the example from Chacheri, Indonesia and Malaysia in the Antikong border have inequality in limitation of border infrastructure and flow of goods that capture the needs gap from each party. Next, as conclusion, the Antikong community provides concrete example of the practice of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. They all live side by side and are open to differences. In Antikong there are Dayak Adat Council, Malay Adat Council, Chinese Traditional Council, Maduris Harmony, Padang Harmony, Bugis Harmony, Bima Harmony, and Javanese Harmony, which are committed on maintaining harmony. The Antikong community, the maintaining community, it also provides that in the border area, the community differences is no problem anymore today. In Antikong, diversity is not interpreted superficially. The indigenous Dayak people of Antikong and other Antikong residents are well aware that if it is to progress, someone has to come from outside and interact with those in the interior. In the interaction between Antikong resident and Malaysia, the story is different. As a result of the different quality of human resource, which is aligned with the lack of infrastructure in life on the border, there is often a disturbance of self-confidence. Education is something that cannot be negotiated to be improved in border area, so that job opportunities can be utilized properly. In line with that, economic research that absorbs employment become a necessity to be ground. How can a sense of national pride and Indonesian nationality be upheld by poverty of an all? Equality requires material adequacy to address the gap between Indonesia and Malaysia. This research is hoped to be able to explain the reality at the Antikong border and its impact on the cultural diplomacy of the two countries. The fact about the inequality friendship in the relation between Indonesia and Malaysia at the Antikong border is a new challenge to be answered carefully. As we know that today transportation facilities and infrastructure in the Antikong area are still far from expectation. From 1985, the Malaysia-Indonesia Social Economic Cooperation Agreement, or we can call SOSEC Malindo, still haven't a revision yet. It needs more concern from international relation rule to elaborate more about it. Thanks for the time, guys. Thank you.